Hi everyone, Thoris the Attention here. This is gonna be my post-commentary video talking about what went behind the scenes with number 4, which is my original story that I recently put up on YouTube for Halloween. This is gonna be off script, so I do apologize if there's any pausing or might just edit those out. I don't know. So yeah. First off, thank you to everyone who watched it. I'm glad people enjoy it. Because this was something that I was interested to how it would play out. So I guess basically I should start from the beginning. So about the middle of September, I was thinking okay, I need to think about what I'm gonna do for Halloween, and so I just about that time I actually finished making my custom model for Alfred, which behind the scenes for that is just a repainted version of the 2022 One Railway Henry. And so because I had him, I thought, why not do a horror story about him? But then I thought, nah, that's just gonna be another cliche one, so I thought changing the characters up a bit. I was thinking of doing Timothy, but I realized my problem with that is that I haven't made a custom model for Timothy yet. So that idea just flew straight out the window. And so my next thought was, okay, let's base the story around one of the main characters. So I went. Well, I did a quick search through all of the main characters anyway, characters 1 through 12. And I looked to see if there were any characters that weren't main characters within a spooky episode. Turned out it was Gordon. Somehow. You have Thomas, who stars in a fair few, Edward, who has been in a couple of horror stories being set in the past. You have Henry with Haunted Henry. James with that one CGI episode from season 18, I think it was. Percy with his plethora of stories. Toby. Actually, Toby doesn't have. Yeah, no, Toby doesn't even have. Well, aside from Ghost Train, he doesn't really have one. Duck was a part of Scatty Engines. Don Douglas had Bad Day at Castle Lock, if you can call that a spooky episode. Oliver had. Oh shit! What did he have? I don't think Escape counts. Yeah, no, Escape doesn't really count. That's technically not a spooky episode. Actually, no. Bluey 2 just recently uploaded Wandering Whispers, which has Oliver as a ghost. So, yeah, he now has a horror episode to himself, I guess. And then Emily had Halloween from season 8, so yeah, I guess. So yeah, pretty much Gordon was the only character out of the main 12 to not have a spooky episode to himself. So I said, screw it, let's go with that. And yeah, so I just started writing the script. I thought, who would be the best characters to utilize for the story? aside from Gordon. And so I thought, why not have Henry be the express engine, which you see in the beginning, have Spencer be brought on for some plot convenience, like Edward being there to like be there, and then Thomas just goes Thomas. And so yeah, I actually had, because I had Alfred there, I wanted to use him, but I had to think of a way to have him in the story alongside Gordon, so I thought, why not I make this like a history sort of story, talking about like why Henry is the express engine and not Gordon. So I decided to have it set in the main story itself, set in the past. Just kind of snowballed. It kind of snowballed from there. And so, when I started writing, I'll be honest, I wasn't even thinking, and it only occurred to me about towards the end of editing that I had put in 3 railway/television stories, being Edward's Day Out, Thomas and Gordon, and Edward and Gordon. I did not, the Thomas and Gordon one I did expect, the other 2 I did not in the slightest think about that. Like, those were just put in randomly. And so, it was, definitely a fun little thing. I will admit there are bits of dialogue that I put in that, when compared to like something later on, it doesn't make sense. Like with that one bit of line that Clarabelle said that Alfred was being too rough with them, and then like later on he's acting like this sort of neutral character. Neutral/supporting character. Supportive character, not supporting. It just didn't make sense. That is when I finished editing the video. I guess the story behind that is like Alfred has worked more with like non-faceless coaches rather than coaches like Annie, Clarabelle, and Darcy, who, yes, I did give Old Slow Coach a name, which was Darcy. I don't know why, it just came out of nowhere, but it definitely feels like an old-timey name, so it fits. It was, I wanted to treat Edward like even though he's like old, wise, and kind, he still like has a bit of trauma from what Gordon did. And I think because of that, it definitely felt like it'd make more sense for Thomas to tell the story rather than like Edward or Annie and Clarabelle. Well, Clarabelle more than Annie, but I hope you get what I mean. Where do I go next? The filming. That was actually something that I was thinking about. I was like, do I pay someone to film it in trains, or do I do something completely different? And so I opted to use my wooden railway trains, because I had Alfred, I had Edward, Thomas, Spencer, yada yada yada, and I wanted to incorporate like me into the story somehow. Well, not as like an internal character, but just like to be there, because I could. Like it's my story. I can do whatever the hell I want. And so yeah, I ended up going for the wooden railway, because Roblox, none of the Roblox games even has me in it, because none of the creators even know me. And by any creators, I mean by one. But what else? I guess I should like continue with like talking about the characters. I guess I'll start with the main man himself, Gordon. Gordon is he with like how he was like portrayed in the early books, like the Three Railway Engines and Thomas. He was definitely like this boastful, cocky persona, and I thought, I might as well make him a bit more cocky than what he originally was. Which I was actually reading one of the comments. I won't name names, but they said, "How could you do Gordon so dirty like that? Gordon wouldn't be this horrid." And I say to that, it's a Halloween video. That's the whole point. Like, Gordon's meant to be this terrible bastard that terrorizes all the other engines. And so, yeah, I also thought I portrayed that pretty well. In terms of Clarabelle, like how Spooderglen portrayed, voiced Clarabelle, it sounded like she was a hell of a lot more traumatized than what I had written, and like I'll admit, even like going through the documents, like the story itself, it definitely felt like it was being overestimated. When like if you go to the point where like Clarabelle's like extremely traumatized, like it doesn't properly show it. And so yeah, it didn't really like sit, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's Gordon and Clarabelle. Thomas, I honestly think I portrayed both Thomas and Edward pretty well in this, because like Edward being resentful, like full-on resentful about like Pacifics coming in and like taking over their jobs, like that definitely felt like in character for like Edward specifically, because for those who have been living under a rock somehow for the past God knows how long, Edward was a top link express engine before the Pacifics came in, and so Edward himself would have like a form of resentment to 2 Pacific engines, which is completely understandable in Edward's case. Like, I honestly get why he like be this cross about Spencer and Gordon. Thomas, I think I represented him well because like, he himself has never had to like deal with Pacifics until Gordon arrived, and so like within the time that he was with Gordon, like he was able to resent Gordon. I think I'm using that word correctly. I don't know. Having Thomas like not be so over dramatic about it is that just shows like how well he's dealt with it. I thought that went quite well. Just trying to think of what else to say about it. I guess I can go on to like the voice actors themselves. I have to say, all of them did an amazing job as their voices. Bluey too as Gordon, he nailed it. Like in terms of like this story, he absolutely nailed Gordon's like emotions. If I will say one thing though, is that I do feel like he could have had a bit more emphasis on like Gordon's maniacal laughs whenever he did those. But it definitely still worked. LDSC Productions, like I'm like proper friends with him. He did give Alfred a pretty interesting touch to his persona, because normally whenever someone thinks of Alfred, they're thinking, oh no, he's gonna explode. No, that's gonna be for the sequel. I'm joking. But yeah, I honestly think LDSC portrayed Alfred in this quite interestingly, because he's sort of this like sort of soft, down to earth kind of guy, and that honestly, I think like people would agree with me in saying that it's definitely an interesting change for the Blue B12. If I were to like, it's hard to criticize like someone for someone who only has like a few lines. If anything, I feel like it could have given Alfred a couple more lines. But alas, I didn't. And I honestly think I gave a good amount of Alfred. So next up, Peter Sam is Thomas. I don't know why a narrow gauge engine is voicing a standard gauge tank engine, but oh well. Yeah. It was. It was definitely tough when it came to editing his voice, because it sounded like he was expressing things a bit too quickly, so I had to try and work around that, and thankfully I did. I did manage to work around like him both cutting the lines really close together as well as like talking slightly fast. But yeah, I honestly think he did really well as Thomas. But his I'd say the best moment out of Sam's recordings for Thomas is when he said Gordon's insane. That I thought he did pretty well. Everything else felt, I don't know, it felt sort of monotone in a way. Not to bash on his voice talent skills. Like he definitely nails voicing Thomas. But yeah, it just sounded a bit monotone to me. Next up, Spooderglen as Annie and Clarabelle. They did a pretty good job, I will admit. As you do with any twin in the Thomas and Friends fandom, it's always difficult to try and figure out which one's which. But thankfully, Spooderglen recorded each of the sisters separately, which I was thankful for. Her performance was phenomenal as well, both Annie and Clarabelle, but like Clarabelle specifically, seeing as though she was like the epicenter of the two, because it's no one ever like focuses on like the rolling stock as much as the engines. Like there are, don't get me wrong, there definitely are like stories that I think are really good, like involving the coaches. But yeah, I don't get like much attention as like all the engines do. So like every time we do see them as a main character, it's always a treat. And yeah, it definitely felt like that when doing this. And yeah, again, Spooderglen just knocked it out of the park. I blame myself for like writing the script, because the lines that were given to her felt like really basic bitchy against like what she brought back, and it was like phenomenal in terms of her, like, if I were to compare her lines to like another show, I'd compare her to Peter Capaldi in Doctor Who. Because like even like the most like boring or like bad episodes, Capaldi always managed to wow us with his dialogues, and it just made the episodes that much better. That's what I felt like when I was listening back to Buddha Glenn's lines, and like even in the episode itself, she made it so good. And so I can't thank her enough for voicing Annie and Clarabelle. You did an amazing job. And finally, Dana, voicing Rosie and Molly. Even though, like, with the amount of, like, with the short amount of time that she had, she definitely gave them some pretty good voice time. Again, like with Alfred, I could have given them a couple more lines, but but then the other side of me is like, if I give her too many lines, it's just gonna feel cluttered. So yeah, I'm happy with like where they're sitting at their lines. And then, well, of course, can't forget me, your boy Flores. Yeah, I definitely thought I gave my all to voicing Edward James and Flores, or myself. I think the trickiest moment I had to work around was like with Edward trying to push Gordon up the hill. Like I could have done a bit more like grunting and painting, like a couple more seconds. But I didn't fully know at the time, so I can't really blame myself on that. Yeah, I wanted to like voice Edward because for me anyway, I feel like there weren't that many people that were giving Edward this like soft sort of tone to their voice, because like in instances like the Bluey 2 in a series called Locomotives, or Victor Tanzig's Edward in Stories of Sodor, they're both using their regular voice, which is perfectly fine, and like they definitely do work in those series. But like Edward as an entity, it feels like he should be this old kind of wise sage with a soft voice, and basically giving advice to younger engines, and yeah, pretty much all that I've completely forgotten. So guess I should go into filming, which it was. Filming was definitely interesting because I had to work within a limited space, which was my table, and so there were like eventually shots that I ended up having to rework the layout of the table, like in order to emphasize that it's a different area, rather than it being a loop. And I did feel like I got that in like the shots that I needed, like Marin, Final Station, Edward's little travel, as well as like all those B-roll footage. I definitely felt like I got somewhere with those. I think out of all of them, the hardest, definitely the hardest the hardest scenes to shoot were all the scenes of like the engines crossing over the points, because oh my god, trying to pull them along with string on some of those like switches was pain, because like they sometimes like either stay going forward or just jump the tracks and just fly off. Which was always frustrating. But aside from like, all the switch failures, the hardest would have to be Edward pushing Gordon up the hill, because like I had to like what I'm showing you right now is like the behind the scenes footage if I haven't deleted any of it. And like all it is just like one small slope and that's it. So I had to try and work it to be like a hill, so I had to do some really close-up shots of the two engines to try and emphasize how big the hill was, and it definitely did show. From my point of view, anyway, it definitely felt like it was a bit of a struggle to get up a relatively steep slope, because from the panning shots between Edward and Gordon, it didn't look like it was that tall. But it was still tall enough for Edward to be like struggling, per se. Sorry, people outside. But yeah. About for like basically everything involving like the main stuff itself. So I guess I should go into like clearing up a couple of things. One comment that I completely understand, which is wasn't to handle number 3 and Peter Sam number 4, and so I perfectly agree with that, because like when I was looking up who the SKR number 4 was, it always kept popping up with Sir Handel. Like every time I like SKR number 4, like number 4 Scar Lowy. Narrow gauge, Thompson Friends narrow gauge number 4, it popped up with Sir Handel rather than Peter Sam. And so because of that, I've had to headcanon. I had to bullshit headcanon the reason as to why Sir Handel's number 4. And not Peter Sam. So, long story short, back on the Mid-Sodal Railway, it was actually Stuart who came on first. Stuart being Peter Sam. Stuart came on first as number 2. Then Falcon, Sir Handel, came on as number 3. And then, like, the reason why Stanley, the original number 2 in the Railway series, Stanley or Smudger, you pick, the reason why Stan Mudger, whatever, the reason why Stan Mudger, was sent inside and turned into a generator was, because he was cursed with like being the 4th engine, And so, yeah, when the MSR closed, and the year that it did, I completely forgot what year it was. Both Stuart and Falcon were sold off to the Skarloey Railway, but because Rheneas was number 2, they didn't want Stuart to be number 2 as well. So they moved Stuart to being number 3 and renamed to Pierce Sam, and Sir Handel to number 4, renamed Sir Handel. I know what I said. And so because of that, because of the number change to being number 4, Sir Handel started going insane. And so, all the companies across the island decided to not number any engines as number 4. And it was... I'm just trying to remember. The SKR thing would have happened after these accidents, so... I guess. Also, because of that also confirms that, Rosie has been on the island longer than she's been anticipated for. Being, in the 50s, I think? Mid-40s to 50s. That's when the USA class came through. The other bullshit headcanons that I've had to do. The tram engine that got blown up wasn't Toby. Because, straight afterwards, when Edward and Thomas don't want the day off, Thomas mentioned that Toby was going to be taking Annie and Clara, so the answer to who the tram engine is in the explosion was that it was a lone tram engine that was killed. Alfred was the 5th engine to be purchased by the Fat Hat, but he was never officiated. He was never technically officiated as the 5th engine, because he never gained the number. He was more. I think it'd be better if I were to explain it in a sequel. Because spoilers, I do have plans for a sequel to number 4. I'm thinking of titling it number 3, which if you don't get it, it's gonna be based on Henry and pretty much how he became the express engine officer. And so that's pretty much all I've got to remember. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed number 4, and we shall see you all in another video.
For the nighttime stuff aside from the photos. How the hell am I meant?
Oh, dear. Your phone closer.